Senator Alvarado.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of the committee, for your indulgence on this bill. Senate Bill 71 is a bill that I filed in response to the concerns of my constituency. This legislation is an attempt to return to our foundational roots as a country, effectively, and the term taxation without representation is unfortunately alive and well in Kentucky. In 2014, Kentucky State Auditor found that more than 1,200 special districts collected about $1.5 billion in taxes and fees annually. House Bill 1 was proposed, which required special purpose government entities like libraries, fire departments, sewer districts, and similar agencies to submit their budgets to a publicly accessible online registry. The Senate at that time voted to grant fiscal courts and city councils veto power over tax and fee increases by the special districts. Instead, a compromise was achieved that would require these entities to hold public meetings before increasing taxes and fees and give special reports to fiscal courts regarding their budgets. Senator Thayer at that time prophetically stated that the General Assembly might need to review the law in the future, and here we are. What we have found is that despite these hearings and the vocal opposition of the people, many of these districts have continued to impose and raise taxes. And unfortunately, these districts are often composed of bureaucrats and not elected officials. And I feel that it is fundamentally, again, un-American to have individuals who can impose taxes and fees on society without those very individuals having to answer for their actions at a ballot box. Senate Bill 71 requires that before any new tax is proposed or any increase in taxes or fees is imposed by a special governmental entity, it must go before a city commission or county fiscal court for approval. The sub that you have before you is a product of discussions that I've had with obviously several entities that were excluded in the legislation we had in House Bill 1 back in 2014. This included the Kentucky League of Cities, who came and spoke with me, a lot of our representatives for our water districts, and also our airport boards. And after some discussion, we decided to go ahead, in the sub, and what you're going to find there that's different from the original bill is on page 3 under section 1, paragraph 5, that the reporting requirements of this section shall not apply to, and you're going to find on the following page, on page 4, a list of all the exemptions that were present before. This is going to include, so that our airports, for example, it might have a contract with a private entity for a fee for hangar use, doesn't have to go before Metro Council for approval. There's several things that are also federally regulated that really we don't have any say in as a state. There's lots of other entities also that report to the Public Service Commission. And so a lot of those groups were once again exempted, so that this applies to groups that are truly applying a tax or a fee to people without folks being able to vote those individuals in. With that, I want to introduce one of my constituents from Montgomery County. Shannon Denniston is going to provide a little bit of testimony regarding this as well.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
If you would identify yourself so we can make record of your testimony today, please. Okay.
Hi, my name is Shannon Denniston. I am from Mount Sterling, Kentucky. That's in Montgomery County, and also a taxpayer there as well. I'm also one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit against the Montgomery County Library. We'd filed a class action lawsuit against them for wrongful taxation, and our case was never heard. We actually had to raise the funds for the lawsuit. There's about a little more than 100 people in Montgomery County, taxpayers, who pretty vocal group and upset over the taxation that has been imposed on us, and we went to court only to have it dismissed because there were two cases in northern Kentucky where the libraries up there were sued and were actually ruled in favor of taxpayers, that they had illegitimately set their tax rates, and then they were granted an appeal, and the libraries prevailed on the appeal. However, the other side was never granted an appeal, which I feel was highly unfair. So, excuse me. Today I brought with me just a chart. You can kind of see what the tax rates have done in Montgomery County, and this by no means is limited just to Montgomery County. It's obviously a statewide issue. Some counties have fared better than ours, and many more have fared worse. But the chart kind of starts looking back around 2000, 2001, which is when our research indicates that the issue arose. And if we look at the, I believe they have copies. If we look on the one where we see, let's just look at the library, for instance. In 2000, the library's rate in Montgomery County was 2.2 cents. That rate today is 6.8 cents, which is a little more than a 200% increase. And we have some others on the list that are nearly 500% increase in the same time period. So it's clear that you can't take a 4% increase over that time span and arrive at these triple-digit increases. To look at assessment growth in Montgomery County and what the state and what the county taxing districts did, which I think are very paint the picture a little bit clearer. The state rate during the same period has actually declined from 14.1 cents to 12.2 cents. And the reason it declined is due to an increase in assessments. So in Montgomery County, our property assessments for real property, they increased from approximately $422 million to $722 million. I believe that's about a 70% probably increase in assessments. Had the rates remained the same for all of our special taxing districts, they would have realized a 70% increase in the revenues just by holding the rate the same, which is what the state, for the most part, did, but the state actually reduced their rate. Our county was a 7.4 cent rate and is now a 7.4 cent rate. So our other taxing districts, the rates should actually have been the same as they were back in 2000. They should be the same today, or actually less had they each chosen compensating. But we know that they can choose a 4% increase if they want to each year. So let's just give them the benefit of the doubt and say that a few of those years maybe they chose an increase, and a few of those years maybe they chose compensating. Compensating rate is the rate which would produce the prior year's revenue, excluding net new property. So for instance, say we have a new factory come to town and build a factory building, or let's say that your neighbor builds a new home beside your home. That would be a net increase in property. That would be new property coming on the tax rolls. So our county's been very blessed that each year, other than maybe 2 or 3 years, we've had about a $20 million a year increase in assessment growth. Some years greater than that, other years less than that. But overall, we've grown at about 70% in assessments. So had our taxing districts' rates maintained the same rate, their revenues would have also increased, proportionately the same. The problem that we have is looking at the library in 2001, their revenue from taxation, property taxation, was approximately $215,000. Our library was operated with approximately 6 employees at that time. With a budget of $215,000 coming in, and that represents almost 100% of their budget. And today, almost 100% of their budget is taxpayer money through property taxation. Today, fast forward in or 2015, they'll take in a little more than $1 million in property taxes. So they've grown exponentially from $215,000 to over $1 million a year, just our library. Today, our library takes in almost as much money as our fiscal court takes in to run the entire county, and that's just our library. Other ones I would be paying attention to are the extension service, the fire and the ambulance boards. These have also grown significantly. If our library had kept the same rate, their revenue today from property taxes would be approximately $300,000. So there's about 70% fluff in the revenue, 70% more each year that's coming out of taxpayer wallets than should be. We tried to correct this through the courts and had a lot of pushback, obviously, and didn't get the result that we were looking for as taxpayers. And when we asked our libraries about, what's your thoughts? I mean, let's try to work this out. They said, well, it's something that the General Assembly needs to fix. It's not our problem, it's their problem. They need to fix it. And so they recognize the issue. However, they're not willing to do what's right, in my opinion, and correct it themselves. Excuse me. So part of the issue has to do with a loophole in KRS 132.010. The subsection on that is subsection 6. So KRS 132.010 subsection 6. There's a loophole in that statute that is allowing our special taxing districts to ratchet up their rates far greater than 4%, while publishing it in the media that they're choosing compensating, or they're taking only the 4%. In some cases, such as with our library, they've taken a greater than 20% increase in some years while passing it off to taxpayers and the media as a 4% or less increase. So I come to you today to ask that you guys please consider maybe a larger tax reform package in the future, but more importantly right now, let's take the first step and let's bring some accountability to our special taxing districts by requiring the fiscal courts to have a vote on the actual tax rates as they are set. Because you know, I confronted our local fiscal court, and they said, well, our hands are tied. You know, the boards are not elected, they're appointed, and they said we have to appoint them. You know, the choices are given to us by Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives, and we have 2 names to pick from. We have to pick one of them. I think they could actually toss those out and ask for 2 more names. I'm not for certain, but they say their hands are tied and they can't do anything to stop this. And you know, since the library boards and our other taxing district boards are unelected, what we have here in its purest form is taxation without representation. And that's what needs to be addressed in the larger picture. But I believe a great first step in this would be bringing the rates before the fiscal courts, giving the fiscal courts the power and authority to vote yea or nay on the rates before they're set. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Denniston. Senator Alvarado, now are you going to speak to the sub on this?
That's what I mentioned earlier. What the sub contains is the exemptions.
The exemptions, okay, but you're not going to spell those out for us at this time.
Yeah, I start on page 3 of the sub.
That's fine.
Yeah, line 26,
Okay.
and on page 4, there's a long list of rental fees, fees established by contractual arrangement, admission fees. You know, for example, if you have I don't know if you want to go through them all in detail.
No, I don't want to go through them all, but let me ask you this: is this the same exemptions that we had in the legislation last year?
Yes, that's what's drafted. And I've had KLCs come to me this morning saying they'd like some more clarification. We may actually entertain an amendment beyond this just to clarify another phrase that's there that they brought to my attention this morning.
Okay, very good. Are there any questions for either Senator Thayer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Senator Alvarado not only for bringing this bill, but for also calling me prophetic. I believe that's a first that adjective has been used. But I do feel gratified that you're bringing this bill because I've been talking about it for a long time. And if you remember, a few years ago, we passed House Bill 1, which was a bill suggested by our then auditor. And it did bring more accountability and transparency to the process of special districts. Special districts now have to at least go to the fiscal court and say, hey, here's what we're going to do. But it didn't go far enough, did not offer the kind of oversight that the taxpayers deserve. We did add that amendment in the Senate, but it failed in the House, and we ended up going to a conference committee and agreeing on the final details of House Bill 1, which were a great step in the right direction, but didn't go far enough. So I appreciate Senator Alvarado and Mr. Denniston. Their testimony today couldn't be said any better. The only thing that I would recommend is those interested in this issue go back and look at the auditor's report on this that talked about the shadow government that existed with these really thousands of unelected boards that are spending hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars, and they're on behalf of the taxpayers. There should be more oversight, and it either should be done via this committee sub, which gives fiscal courts approval, or we just need to start electing these people to these special districts. Because when you are elected, as opposed to appointed, you will think twice about raising someone's taxes or fees. If you are that much more accountable to them, you will be more sensitive about voting to raise their taxes and fees. If you're appointed, not so much. So I want to make a motion that Senate Bill 71 with the committee substitute is reported favorably. Motion same shall pass.
There is a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Would the secretary please call the roll?
Senator Alvarado.
Aye.
Senator Harper Angel. Senator Humphreys.
Yeah, please vote and explain your vote.
Explain my vote just a second. I vote aye. I understand exactly what we're getting at here, and I think Senator Thayer's comments were well taken. We all want to see a sense of transparency, and everybody knows that long ago these special districts were put in for a purpose, and that purpose was to deflect some of the attention from elected officials to raise taxes in areas of concern. A lot of our libraries, a lot of our extension offices have grown over the years because of that, and have done great things. And I think that as Senator Thayer's comments were made, I look back at how fortunate I was to serve with a county who only had one special district. A lot of these counties have so many special districts that it's spinning plates to keep everybody in and hear those comments, hear what your approval rate is. And I think over time there will be some positives that will, as Senator Thayer mentioned, will have to come from those who are appointed or put on these special districts. To have elected officials sit in the fiscal courtroom and annually have to approve a budget that comes before them, or special districts that come before them with increases that maybe, as you mentioned, sir, much more than the 4% annually, you're not going to have elected officials that consistently want to do that. And so I think you'll see some pushback from that. I think you'll see some pushback from having appointees in a position that maybe don't work as well in some counties as they do others. But I vote aye, and in the sense of transparency, I want to further this along. But I do think that there are still additionally aspects of this that will be uncovered.
Senator McDaniel.
Aye.
Senator McGarvey.
Pass.
Senator Ridley.
Pass.
Senator Robinson.
Aye.
Senator Syme. Senator Thayer.
Aye.
Senator Bowen.
Aye.
7 yeas and 3 nays.
There being 7 aye votes, 3 pass votes. Senate Bill 71, as amended by the committee sub, will be reported favorably. Motion same shall pass. Thank you. Were those, I'm sorry, Senator Ridley, was that a pass vote or a no vote?
It was a pass vote, and I'd like to explain my pass vote.
Absolutely.
You know, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, we get a substitute, still warm, I'll call it. Give us a chance, give us a 24-hour period to let us at least have some idea of what is in the proposed bill that we're going to vote on in committee. And I think that's a fair and equitable thing to do, because in my area, we have a lot of special districts, not just the library. We have, believe it or not, in rural Kentucky, we have ditch tax groups that meet. We've got fire districts. We've got a number of districts that this encompasses, you know. And so our fiscal court, I've never heard the story you just shared with regards to House Bill 44 with a 4% rate, and it come out to be more than 4%. I think somebody ought to take that to court. I mean, that's questionable.
We tried.
So, well, we just don't have that in West Kentucky that I know of. And so anyway, that's reason for my past vote, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you for that. Was that committee sub not available?
I did email that to you, Mr. Chairman.
That was attached. The hard copy was perhaps just passed out today, but the committee sub was up on the website yesterday evening, I believe. So, but your point's well taken. Point's well taken on that. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you all.
Thank you.